Hi everyone, welcome back to Know Northumberland, the show featuring events and organizations making a difference in our community. I'm your host, Jenny McCaig. Now, joining me is Tony
Posthumus.
I'm sorry, I just can't do it. Executive Director of Northumberland Youth Unlimited, and welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, January 22nd, it's the youth awareness event confronting the plight of refugees at the CCC, the Cobra Community Center, of course, from 7 to 9:30 at night. Now, can you tell me a bit more about this?
Yeah, for sure. Passages, actually, it was interesting. There was a group of youth pastors and some youth workers in the town of Coburg. Probably back in September, we were chatting about the whole refugee crisis and some of the responses that were starting to happen already in the community. There's the Better Together Refugee Sponsorship Project, and there's a few other organizations that are sponsoring refugees. And we really looked at it as a group of youth workers and said, you know, how do we engage the youth of our community in this whole process? I mean, this is happening. It's all over social media. It's all over the news. Youth are seeing it on their phones and on their tablets and in their schools. And what do we do with this? How do we engage youth in the process? And we also wanted youth to be kind of prepared, you know. And when you look at our entire county, with all the different sponsorship projects and individuals in our county, there's going to be about 15 to 20 families estimated arriving in the next 6 months. And there's actually already been a few. I mean, I believe Trinity United Church just had their first family come in last week, and there's one in Brighton. I think there's a few people in Port Hope. So it's already happening. And it's just the whole idea of, you know, how do we engage youth in the process? And how do we prepare youth for the arrival of refugee families? Because what we didn't want to have happen as a collective of youth workers is having our youth just not ready. And what do we, you know, there's a strange person that comes to school that doesn't speak their language, that doesn't look like them, that's new to the school, and you know, how do I respond to that? How do we do that? And so that's kind of the background of kind of where Passages came from. And then we were just starting to do research of just, you know, is there something that we can do to engage youth in this whole refugee crisis? And we stumbled upon the Passages awareness game, and it's actually a game that's developed by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. So it's a legit awareness game from the United Nations, yeah, and it's directly from the United Nations, and they did a great job of developing this awareness game. And so what we've done is we've really kind of tweaked this game to make it fit for a large group setting. And it really it's role playing modules that the youth will go through, and so when they arrive, they'll register and they'll get split up into family groups, and each family group is going to have an adult volunteer to act as a family guide to kind of make sure that they've got the support they need to go through the event, and they'll go through modules like escape and separation, where, you know, they will, you know, be just doing day-to-day regular activities in the gym at the CCC, and then all of a sudden there'll be a big change, and we'll have, like, you know, sounds of airplane and bombs dropping, and just that whole, and then you've got to find your family, and it's the lights are going out and it's scattered, and you know, and that's a reality, and that's a reality for refugees, and it's also a reality for a lot of the refugees that we've seen on TV, right? That we've seen, you know, them going up on the shores in Greek and in Greece and that kind of thing. And so, you know, escape and separation, and then a border crossing, and we have volunteers that are going to be dressed in military garb, and they've got fake guns, and you know, we've talked to the Coburg Police about that, so they're all good with it and supportive. They want to make sure we clear that. But you know, so that whole thing of you know, having to go through a border crossing where, you know, if they're lucky enough to get to the crossing, they're going to get a sheet of paper that is going to be written in gibberish, and they have to fill that form out to get across the border, which is going to be like a person coming to a border that you can't understand their language.
What a great way.
Right, and so just yeah, so just different modules like that where they go through different pieces to get a bit of an awareness. I mean, obviously this is a very small scale compared to what an actual family goes through. We want to let them experience just a little bit of the discomfort and the stress and the confusion of just going through these experiences to get to a new country. And then hopefully by the end of the event, what we're going to do as well is we'll have a debriefing session, which is very intentional. And so we'll talk, there's two main questions that we're going to ask the youth during the debriefing session. Is one, you know, for your family group, which module had the greatest impact on you and why? And so they can process some of the things that they've been experiencing and feeling. And as well, the second one, which is probably equally as important, is, you know, now that you've experienced a little bit what a refugee family has gone through to get to Canada, what's one thing that you as an individual can do to help a refugee family transition well into our community? And so our hope is that we will engage them in process, we'll empower them to make good decisions when they encounter refugees in their high school. Exactly. So we want youth to, you know, I mean, it's the 22nd of January. They're going to go to school the week after that and start to write their exams. They're going to start their second semester in early February. And what we want them to be empowered and to remember this event is that when they encounter, not if, but when they encounter a refugee teen in their high school, that they're going to be, oh yeah, I remember a little bit what that was like and how uncomfortable it was and how important it was to have someone that I could connect with. And so hopefully that will encourage them to engage in conversation regardless of language boundaries or barriers.
Figure it out.
Yeah,
Right.
and help them find their locker, where the science classroom is, where the cafeteria is, where the washrooms are, because those are all really challenging things for people that don't have a language that we can understand. So
there's really cool apps now that translate
yes.
languages.
Yeah, that's right.
So, that maybe that's a good thing to maybe point out to
Yes.
these teenagers as
Absolutely.
well that night.
That's
I don't
a
know.
good idea.
It's now admission is $5.
Yes. Yeah, $5, and the really great thing about this is the $5 admission.
donation.
Yeah, it's a donation.
Yeah.
We're not taking the $5 to cover our expenses. We partner with individuals and organizations that pretty much do this thing as free as cheap as possible. And the $5 admission, 100% of that is going to go to the Better Together Refugee Sponsorship Project. So we want to be able to support them as well and connect the youth with that whole project as well. It's not just about the adults in the community getting involved. We want the young people to get involved as well.
Yeah, very important. Ages 14 to 19, and all proceeds go to Better Together Refugee Sponsorship Project. Now, can you tell us a bit more about what that project's all about, the Better Together Refugee Sponsorship Project?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's basically a group of churches in our community. My understanding is there's 6 or 7 churches in Cobourg, and I think 1 or 2 in Port Hope that have basically joined forces, and they said, we need to respond to this whole refugee crisis, and we need to do so in a way that we believe is the way that God is calling us to do that as a group of churches. And so what the churches are doing is they've created sponsorship groups, and there is a sponsorship partner with the Government of Canada that they're working with in one of the church denominations. I believe it's the Alliance Church. And so they are a visa blended sponsorship group that's connected with the government. And basically with those group of churches, as well as the Rotary has come on board as well. And so there's 7 families that they are raising the money for in the community to sponsor 7 families in the community. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. I know they're looking for warm clothing, etc., for people to donate, but what else do you think they need to get the kind of life off the ground in Northumberland? And,
Sure.
Where could maybe they drop off, or any more information on
Yeah,
that?
for sure. I mean, really, what they're looking for really is just your basic needs as a family, right? And so, one of the things, the money that they're raising, as well as the supplies that they're raising, really needs to be outfitting that family for a year. And so it's just a matter of, we might exactly keep them warm, right? They're coming in January, February, where it's the coldest time of our year, and they're coming from the Middle East where they're not used to winter. So just things like blankets and warm clothing, outerwear. So boots, hats, mitts, and snow pants for kids, winter coats and that kind of thing. I mean, you might have remembered seeing, Prime Minister Trudeau welcoming the first plane load at Pearson Airport, and they were handing out warm clothing, right? That's exactly the kind of thing they're looking for, as well as furniture, outfitting an apartment. They may be able to find some good housing for a family, but then they need furniture. They need, plates, and they need pots and pans and cutlery and all that kind of thing.
Everything.
Right? Exactly. They're coming with just maybe a suitcase or 2 of just their basic belongings and some clothing, and that's it. So they need everything. And so I know that Salvation Army is partnering with them through their furniture program as well to try and connect furniture and refugee families as well. I would just go to Better Together's website and have a look, and they have all the contact information, and you can find it where I know there's a warehouse that they have, and just all sorts of things. So
need your help, though.
absolutely.
So anything you can donate, whether it be an extra,
Yeah.
it's always needed. Now, I wanted to touch on, I don't think we touched on the amazing prize that is happening that night, January 22nd at the CCC.
Yes.
What is the door prize?
Yeah, so we had an individual in our community donate a Fitbit wristband to use for our event. So that's going to be a door prize. So pretty much everyone that goes in gets their name in the draw, and it'll be a random draw at the end of the night, and they'll get a Fitbit, which they're pretty awesome. And if you're looking at trying to track your health, and it's the new year, a lot of people kind of think about that kind of stuff, some more than others. So the Fitbit is really it's a great opportunity, a great prize. So
it is a great prize, and between the ages of 14 and 19, I couldn't afford a Fitbit. Let me tell you. So that is a great prize to win.
Yeah.
Now, regarding the upcoming event on January 22nd at the CCC, what are you hoping the youth of the community will take away from it, and what will they, learn and welcome the newcomers to the community? You touched on that earlier, but there's certain things, like many here have never or will never, hopefully, experience what Syrian refugees have gone through, being displaced, war-torn. That fear every day that they hold on to, hunger.
Yeah.
relocating to a new country, etc.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, when we live in our Western culture and we go through our day-to-day life and we do our day-to-day things, we're really sheltered from those experiences. As much as we see it on our, I mean, we can look at it on our iPhone or on an Android device, and we can look at it and we can see it, but there's no connection, right? I mean, I'm just watching something, and to be honest, that could also be just a movie. Right? I mean, we watch movies and they're very dramatic, and it's just like, yeah, exactly, right? So there's that piece where we want to connect this crisis with youth so they can have a better understanding of what real people in this world actually go through, and that those real people in this world are arriving here and they've been traumatized by things. And so one of the things that we're talking about too is the idea of helping these families transition. You know, one thing that we were talking about earlier this week was the whole notion of even police interaction. You know, we as people in Canada, we see a ride check and we think nothing of it, and we go through a ride check. The police officer asks us if we've had anything to drink, and we say no, and we go about our merry way because, you know, that we just expect that. Well, for some people coming from some of these countries, a ride check could actually be extremely traumatizing, because their experience with police interaction has been completely different than our experience.
It's not good.
Right? Exactly. So all those things. And so it's just that helping to educate youth, helping to increase some awareness for them, helping to engage them, and really to empower them. We want them to be empowered to engage in conversation with a refugee. So that's stuck kind of like, oh, I'm nervous, I don't know what to do. Here's this weird person, I don't know them, they look different, they don't speak my language, I don't know what to do.
Because being a friend at the end of the day to someone is some of the best therapy there is out there.
Absolutely.
So if we can teach the kids to, you know, not be scared and then develop a friendship, it could be amazing, not just for the refugees, but for them as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, as of last week, Canada had officially welcomed our first 10,000 Syrian refugees on the way to our goal of 25,000. Of course, this is welcoming community, as we all know, and many organizations have popped up to help, which is clearly a sign of how open and compassionate Northumberland is. And how have you felt in regards to the way the community has responded?
I think it's exciting. I really do. I mean, there's lots of questions around what it's going to look like, and there's all these logistical questions about how that works. But I think overall, there's just been that welcoming environment that yes, we have to do something for these people that have nothing and that are trying to get away from very dangerous situations. And I think it's amazing when you look at the size of our county and the population of our county, that there's 15 to 20 families that are being sponsored to come to our community. I mean, that's significant. When you look at the per capita, that's significant. And it's a significant investment, not only financial investment, but a people investment. And I think this just says a lot about our community, that we're caring and we're giving and we like to share and we want people to feel safe.